don't have any questions.
Tell me about your mother.
About your mother.
So would you like to start with questions, or do you just stand up if you have questions for him? Wow.
Thank you.
Honestly.
That's one.
During the finale, did Hannibal intend to kill Will, or was he just trying to teach him a lesson, or was he just so upset that he didn't care?
Can everybody hear the question? Right, so during the finale, did Hannibal intend to kill Will, or was he just so pissed off that he taught him a lesson? Is that it? If Hannibal wanted to kill Will, he would be very dead. And obviously, it's a borderline lesson. I mean, he might die, but I give him a small, tiny chance to think about what happened. But as I said before, if Hannibal wants somebody dead, I think that will be the case.
Oh, there's a Wendigo over there.
There's a Wendigo.
I'm a classical musician and I love the music of the show. I was wondering what your favorite piece of the show is and how it ties into the moment. I enjoy that.
Well, not being a classical musician, I'm not sure I can say which one is mine. But the Goldberg variations is obviously going hand in hand with the Hannibal character, right? If you're asking me myself, I'm a big fan of Chopin, and I'm a big fan of Stravinsky as well. So I would like some Stravinsky to come into the show one day.
So I have a question for you. So the show is very cerebral, and everyone sees that there's imagery in there that conveys this many meanings. So how is it to work with Brian Fuller on, does he explain to you like the different levels of what this show is talking about during, like, because it's so deep?
He tries. And obviously Brian Fuller is a very unique person. His brain is working on a different level than the rest of us. So when he tries, we sit and we nod a lot, and we try to have big ears. No, on an acting level, on a level where we need to understand certain things, we are always kept in the loop, of course. But there are certain things that I'm sure he cannot really translate to us because it is untranslatable. But we know what's going to happen. The deeper meaning, we also know, but the deeper meaning, I think that's Brian's.
Anybody else have a question? In the front.
The sculpture in Norway, Vigeland.
Yes. Do you know if the bodies on the beach that were stacked vertically, was that based on the sculpture in Broken Park?
The thing we're talking about here is that there's an episode where there's people on the totem pole, is that right? Yeah. And there's a famous park in Norway where there's an artist called Vigeland who has made those out of stone with people, babies in the top, older people in the bottom. I'm not sure whether he was inspired. I'm not sure that Brian ever went to Scandinavia, but I wouldn't be surprised that he's seen it somewhere. He's very well educated, and I'm sure he speaks better Danish than I do as well. Yeah, it is very similar, you're right.
Do you have another question in here? Right there in the back?
I was wondering, what do you think is the significant difference between your Hannibal and Anthony Hopkins'
The question was, what is the difference, the significant difference between his Hannibal and Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal?
Well, my Hannibal has a funny accent. And he's from Lithuania, and not Wales. Well, the biggest significance is obviously that two different actors doing it. Secondly, I think that Anthony had about 14, 15 minutes of screen time, and we get the opportunity to have hours after hours and build up a character in a slow manner. So it's two very different medias, but I mean, they're still Hannibal. I mean, they still love music and three-piece suits, and they hate everything that's banal. So the characters are still the same, but anytime you make one actor do something, it will always be different than another actor.
Right there in the back.
I actually had a question about a different movie, The Hunt. I found that your performance to be like really compelling and heartbreaking, and I was just curious about what drew you to that role, and if it was difficult to not take some of that home with you in the evening.
So the question was about a film, a Danish film called The Hunt, where I play a man wrongly accused of being a pedophile. And it's a beautiful film and a heartbreaking film, and as far as I understood, you liked what I did in it, right? In a case where it's so well written, it might be tough days, it might be quite emotional what you do, but what frustrates any actor is when it doesn't work. If you have a day when nothing works, it doesn't make sense. That's what you bring back home. Even though you make a heartbreaking scene, you don't necessarily bring it back home if it worked. You can carry the emotion for a while, but you also, as an actor, have to let it go. You have to get fast into the character and leave it pretty fast as well. At least that's my philosophy. So I loved playing that part, and it was quite tough, and I was quite alone doing it. but I didn't bring it back home, no.
Right there? Yes, you, with the hand up.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to say, first of all, I love what you've done with the Hannibal character. I was skeptical at first of someone taking the place of, Anthony Hopkins playing him on the screen, but what you've done is just amazing. But piggybacking off of that, were you approached with the role of playing Hannibal, or did you audition for it? And given that, did you find it somewhat intimidating replacing Anthony Hopkins, or was it kind of just like an exciting challenge for you?
I was approached to do an audition. I did not look for it. I was asked if I wanted to audition for it. And I was quite reluctant for the very reasons you say. I mean, those are big shoes. Anthony Hopkins did it to perfection. And if we were trying to copy any of that, that would be creative suicide right away. So, but after having a meeting with Brian Fuller, where he was, I had 5 minutes with him, where he was supposed to pitch some of the story. And after 2 hours, he was in season 28 or something. and he was still there. He forgot himself totally. He was so enigmatic and so brilliant. And I realized that we were doing something very different. And for that reason, I took the challenge. But if we were just copying what we've seen before, I would not have done it.
In the back, right there, with your hand up. There you go.
Were you at all surprised by how much Hannibal was taken off, like the reception of it? Were you going into it that it was kind of very good reception that had?
The question is, was he surprised by how well Hannibal is taken off?
I don't know. I don't think that anybody does a TV show anticipating that nobody will watch it. So we were obviously hoping that a lot of people would watch it. We also knew that it is a show that will push a certain group of people away for different reasons. It's graphic, it's pretty violent, and it's also quite intellectual to a degree. And for that reason, you will push a lot of people away. So I think we started out fairly strong, and we stayed there for a while, but it's not numbers that are crazy big in America. But then we realized that there was this whole cult on the internet and around us that was following the show. And then thanks to that, and thanks to those people, a lot of you are in here, we got a second season and a third season. I think that this way of being stubborn and strong fan group really persuaded the TV channel to do it again.